All right. Are we on? Okay. So let me go ahead and open up this and sisters and inshallah it will get itself together as we go. Let me go ahead and open up. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين إن الصلاة على رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Alhamdulillah, praise to Allah, the Creator, Sustainer of all the world. We thank Him, we glorify Him, we praise Him for making us Muslim, raising us up, and giving us another day of life. Welcome, brothers, sisters, all those who are here present, and all those who tune in the future or who may be tuned in today. Welcome to our fifth segment of the Year of the Prophet discussion. This is a reflective look upon the life of the prophet, from the beginning to the end. Up to this point, we've been laying groundwork, talking about what is a prophet versus what it is a messenger. We've been talking about why prophecy is important, why how the prophet connects to Ibrahim and the lineage of Ibrahim, the tribe of Ibrahim, and how the tribe of Ibrahim its home is in the land they call the Middle East. Okay, so but there's one thing I didn't want to use. I wanted to use the board. Can we use the board for me? That's one thing I didn't need to ask for. I'm going to use it just a little bit. If not impossible, and we can set it up somehow. Maybe we could set it on the chair, brother. You think about that. Two chairs, like two chairs right over here. Speaker. Over here, speaker. Mm-hmm. Exit. Yeah, I can. There. Now, no. Set it right there. Lower. You. And some markers. Yeah, that's work. All right. Let's keep using the chairs, but don't bring that table real quick. Okay. Just get rid of them. Don't use them all. Go. That's all the way. Yeah, all
The tail has to be up to the wall to touch the wall.
So this is important. I took time to do this. If it wasn't important for us to be able to understand what's going on here. Now, try this. Okay. Here. Good. So let me draw a diagram real quick so we can connect the discussion. I could have just shown a minute, but I wanted to right on. So right here we have and then over there after here, then uh, all right. So this would be the land of the rough. Bear with me. And I couldn't put it up on my screen. There's a reason I want to show you something, okay? So this is the land of the Middle East. What is this over here? What is it? India, right? India slash right here. Where's the parts today?
Yeah, Ron.
Iran. Iran. We call it what it's called back then. Persia.
Right.
That's Iran. But this is important because we're still here today.
Yeah.
You want to turn this, brother? It's a anyway. So we have Persia here, and then over here, this is what we sign, and we kind of end up with the Nile. The Nile goes this way, and this right here would be what we would call Jerusalem or Israel. We would call it Israel. Israel. People can relate. Israel, and then up here is today we call Turkey, but back then it's called Byzantium.
Yeah.
Okay, and so let me change hands. In this time of the prophet, what's important to understand is that the world was in chaos the way it's in chaos now. It was in a similar situation because you had up and down here with one great power that I forgot to mention. This is, of course, Africa, but this would be Ethiopia slash Axis. Right? Yes, that was the ancient name back then. Today we call it Ethiopia. Back then we called Axis. So you have four major world powers. I'm going to tell you why there's four and not three. One is Persia, the other is Byzantium, the other is Ethiopia, and over here, not as map, is the old Roman, Holy Roman Empire. Because the Byzantium and the Romans, they had split. So you had two Christian empires, which we now understand was the fall, essentially, of the Christian religion. Had Islam came about because the Byzantines were fighting the Romans, and they were fighting over this land here. That's over here. This is the Med. This is Med right here, right? So it's Jerusalem. So you have this group of people coming into Arabia. This group of people coming into Arabia. And this group of people coming into Arabia.
The way Arabia,
This
right? Yeah.
see the problem? So just, there's these prophet said, final hour is not coming until the whole world is coming together around the land of Islam, like people call dinner in order to take it.
I get it there.
He knew because this had happened before.
Yeah.
The lands that were not Islamic, but they were the holy scriptural lands of Ibrahim and the lands of the great prophets. So these lands here had now come to be taken. There was a time where Arabia was a great place. So this is mentioned in the Quran. I'm not going to go too deep into this but when we read about the people of Ad, we read about the people of Food.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you not see those make the mountains a home? They were once great power. Lo, we sent to the prophet Shu'aib.
Yeah.
So we had the Median and Food, and we had the they were great empires, but they had seen their time and fallen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing was ruined. And then Allah said, do you not see that there were those greater powers toward you? And so he's referring to these great nations that in the time of the prophet were covered with sand. They only were known as myths or, they were once great people. But we go to those places, but now there's just gems in those places. We don't go to those places. But, and so Arabia has seen its height, and now it's kind of fallen into backwater place populated by desert tribes, which were paid by the world's great powers to fight and represent their interests in Arabia. Sound weird. So familiar.
Yeah, right.
Have we heard this story before? As a like, oh wow, this is not new. We're not seeing really anything new because we see the same thing happen. All right, let's keep going. So it was important to show you that at the time, and this is during the early time of the prophet, it was total chaos. There were conflicting world powers, and they would pay the Arab price to represent their interests in the peninsula of Arabia. So you had Persian Arab tribes, you had Christian Arab tribes, and you had Jewish Arab tribes. All right. Now that I'll read the steps. Okay, now that we accept the term, we can just Arabia at the prophet was in a state of chaos and disarray. You might just something went wrong track.
Yeah, the TV has been off. The connection to TV went off.
Okay. Ship it. I can't.
This is why.
Okay. Brother. Yeah, I see stuff here. I just get it on my screen so I can change the slides or whatever my screen all the way.
That's it.
It's what you see. Yeah, it's what you see. That's what I see. So all the way.
So the cable is oh, there. Well,
It's coming up. Yes. For some reason, they kicked me out of the screen. Okay. So as it's coming up, it's important to understand at this time in the prophet is you have all these different tribes that are basically being paid off by the powers. So they're in the middle of Arabia, kind of like today, fighting one another. And what you end up is chaos. It's really only one There's only one place where there's still a little bit of law and order that exists. I guess what that might be the Holy Cabinet. The Holy Cabinet was the one place in Arabia where there was total warfare and chaos. There was a little bit, just a little. All right, let me. Yes. Okay, let me just, bro. I'm gonna close this screen for a reason. Why to me, and I'm just gonna re-click on the link again. You may have to put me back in, bro. I might just, I can keep on here.
Yeah.
So it's just, I can keep talking. They don't necessarily.
Get back.
Okay, so let's keep going. All right, today, as we go, and not just today, so how do we know the story that we're talking about? Well, we know, and as we go through this history of the prophet, we're going to refer to certain things to get our information. How do we know what we know? Well, one thing we always refer to first is the Quran. So in our discussion today, we're going to be using the Quran to walk through some of the early history of Arabia. The second thing we know are the authentic traditions of the prophet. So as we go through the history of the prophet, we're also going to look at the authentic traditions, Bukhari, Muslim, and the authentic sources. We also go from early historians, okay, and we call this Sira. The Sira of the prophet was compiled by early historians, some of which the historians was the difference between the historian and the scholar is the historians sweep up everything and then they kind of do the critical analysis. But the scholars look at things and literally throw out things that if it doesn't agree, they throw it out. Or they'll put it in another book where you can go look at it. It won't be in this book, it'll be in a different type of book. So there's a different approach. The Sira, so the point is that when you read the Sira, any of these books, they may have things in it that aren't considered authentic. Why? Trying to tell a story. Okay? Trying to, you may go back later and study and say, well, that story, that's inauthentic. Well, that's just basically trying to tell you the story until they will put it in a story form. All right. But that's what we're going to use. We're going to use the Quran. We're going to use the Sira, and we're going to refer to modern historians, modern biographies, wherever it's appropriate. So, which is different from the Christian approach, because the Christians throw everything to one book and call all of that the word of God. So within the Bible, you have the book of God, the word of God, the word of the historian, the word of the prophets, the word of the poets. All right, you have the word who were writing, maybe they compiled it. Well, I thought maybe it was. Sometimes they'll say things like footnote. You got footnote. Okay, let's get to it. So today, what is important to know about Arabia right before the birth of the prophet? What there's two key things that I think are really important to know about the time right before Muhammad alayhi salam. The first thing we need to understand is what was the condition of Arabia? What was how and that's what we just started talking right now. Kind of that's the we would call that geopolitical right there. The geo meaning earth, meaning the land, and political meaning who owns it. So that's kind of what that discussion deals with. So one thing, what led what led to the birth of the prophet, and why was revelation needed?
Because it was called the period of time. rid of his teacher.
There we go.
And so that's kind of called into conflict.
Very good.
Area.
Well, that's what we're talking about. That's exactly where we're gonna break it down a little bit more detail. Good start. All right. Arabia powers. Yeah, we're going. We're taking that discussion. So first, we're going to the geopolitical. Geopolitical allows us to kind of get a, well, why was it like this? Well, part of the reason it was in that is because the Great Great Arab was over. All the great kingdoms were now under the sand. They were just some people didn't even exist.
Yeah.
But the Quran points to several of them. They did exist.
Yeah.
Allah says they did exist.
Right.
And history, they can find people and say, yeah, they really did exist. Okay, so that's one of the miracles of the Quran, that it refers to people who in the time of the prophet were already long gone thousands of years ago. Okay, so we have several competing world powers. We have the Byzantine and the Romans, who are the two Christian nations, still fighting one another and kind of squabbling over the remainder of their empire as they fall apart. We have the Persians, who I mentioned. We have the Ethiopian Christians in the south, who are going to be important in a second. I'm going to mention them because the Quran refers to them. And we have Jewish communities, and today it's Yemen. We call it Yemen. So we have Jewish communities also, right in this area, which today Shiites have placed them. That green part.
Mm-hmm.
These are Jewish communities. Notice where they're at. The gateway of Arabia. Toll takers. These are toll takers. That's right. Like anybody who goes to the Gulf is going to have to be fixed by these Jewish tribes. And there's a point in this discussion. Quran takes us somewhere on this. All right. So the Quran later mentions the struggle between Rome and Persia in Surah 30, ayat through 4. And read it very briefly. That the Quran refers to this conflict between the Romans. Anybody, can someone read me Surah 30, ayat 1 through 7. Surah 30, the Romans, ayat 1 through 7. Wow, look.
Okay. And the nearest thing went out that the people was about within 9 years to Allah, like to Allah known man before and after, and that day the people will rejoice. And the victory of Allah, believe was in the victory of Allah. He gives victory to whom he wills. He is exalted in might the mercy. It is a lot of failing, but most people do not know. They know parent, worldly life, they of the area are unaware.
Okay. All right. So this is Surah Ar-Rum refers to some of the events that were taking place with the Roman Empire at this time. One of the events says the Roman Empire has been defeated in a land close by. So that takes us up here to our map. What is it talking about? Well, what is important about Arabia, ladies and gentlemen? What's important, even to this very day? This is Africa. This is Asia. over here. The great market. This is Africa over here. The land resources. And this is what we traditionally call, anybody know it? You ever heard it? Fertile. The fertile crescent. The fertile crescent is where all civilization began.
Oh, God.
Continuously. Forever. Until today.
Mm-hmm.
Someone always been living there. And because someone always been living there, people got to walk back and forth. And this nation here sent the army to battle this nation here, and which is the Romans, and they were over Palestine right here. They're fighting over the rivers, they're fighting over here on the edge of it. Not quite, they're not down in the depths of it yet. They're afraid to go down here. What's down here in the river? What's all down here?
What you mean?
What's down here?
You talking about all of the
Sand. They never sand down there. So they don't want to go down there. So who do they send? They're Arab tribes. So the Romans and Arabs that were the Persians, Arabs that were and they all in the peninsula fighting to control trade lines, trying to control the caravans. What's the first thing that happened? The first war of Badr, what was that about? A caravan.
Yeah. Okay.
When you study the wars of the prophet, you notice they're always attacking a caravan. They're always attacking a caravan. Exactly. Money. So they're trying to control the flow of the money in the world that time. This is the civilized world. But there's one big problem. That's that huge uncivilized desert that's in the middle of it all. And neither the Romans nor the Persians can successfully take over this desert because of these tribes. They're wild. They're fighting back and forth. And ultimately, in Persia and Rome, ultimately, the Quran says, in Rome has been defeated. And so it's referring to the defeat that Rome suffered right here, very early in the time of the life of the prophet. Like right before birth. Right before birth, okay? He's born into a war zone, we would say he's born into a war zone. Being born in Palestine or something. Almost.
Back in the day, trying to get beautiful.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Okay, let's bring it up to the prophet. Good. All right, so the Romans have defeated, yet after their defeat, they will be victorious once again. So let's go next to the state of Arabia at this time. Question.
What was the ayah that you read?
Surah 30, I got 1 through 7.
30,
1 through 7. It says the Roman Empire has been defeated. That's past tense. They were defeated by the Persians in the man close by. But they, after this defeat of theirs, will be victorious in a few years with the law decision in the past and in the future. On that day shall the believers rejoice. So we believe that this is referring to the future war of Tabuk, the Tabuk expedition between the war of Muslims and the Romans, which ultimately the Muslims did win. With the help of Allah, He helps whom He will, and He is exalted in might and mercy. So the condition of Arabia was really, really bad. We had all these world powers. Let me describe to you just how bad it was. There's a surah in the Quran, Surah 85. Let's turn to it real quick. Can someone tell me, does anybody know anything about Surah Al-Buruj? Let me tell you just a little bit about it. Well, let's read it first and then we'll chop it up. Surah Al-Buruj. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء ذات البروج واليوم المعروج وشاهد ومشهود قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد. Just the first 8 verses is sufficient. Can someone read the first 8 verses in English, please?
By the guidance of the God sign, by the honesty of justice, by they, by one witness and the subject of the witness, both papers of the killer fire, fire that utterly confused. Behold, they said over against the fire, and they dissolved that they were good against the belief, and they killed them for no other reason than they can keep the law, exalt the power of their law, praise.
Sadaqallahu al-Azim. All right. Now, what history tells us about Surah 85? Surah 85 is referring to an incident that, and if you go down into at least when you use the Hadith Qurans, you go down into the footnotes, it talks a little bit about this. But it basically, let me tell you before I reference there. So, this land of Yemen was controlled by there was Jewish tribes that were attempting to assert control. That's the point. They're attempting to assert control, and by asserting control, they want to turn everybody who wasn't in their religion, either to their religion or kill them. And so the Jewish king who owned the area in green dug a long ditch, and put Christians into the ditch. The Christian people of his time lit them on fire, burned them. And that is what this is saying. Allah is saying, by the one that witnesses and the subject of the witness, that basically he's buried by himself. By himself, and what is being seen here, woe to the maker of the pit of the fire. Not talking about Jahannam, it's talking about an actual ditch that was known to, this incident was known to happen in the history of Arabia. The Jewish king dug a ditch, put the Christians in there, and burned them. It said he stacked wood and set the fire, and they watched the people burn. It said they witnessed all that they were doing against the believers, meaning that as individuals who did it, they witnessed themselves of this. And they treated them, believers, for no reason than that they believed in Allah, exalted power, worthy, and wise. So what this is letting us know is that belief of Allah did exist in Arabia, but over and over it was being snuffed out by different political world powers. Even today, we're seeing with Jerusalem what's happening at Dome of the Rock. You can't go and worship, like all that snuffed out before being killed and massacred. So we're kind of seeing a similar repetition. Okay. Sure.
So, but
which ones? The ones time of the
put in it. So why did put them in it?
Because they said Allah said they put them in the ditch because they for no other reason they said we believe in Allah.
The Christians believe in Allah. Oh, before they.
This is before. No, this is before Prophet Muhammad.
Oh.
Remember, we're talking about the time before the Prophet, the years right before the Prophet.
So they stuff was there. Then
Allah said they were believers, brother.
Right.
So let's just leave it at that. Whether they believe in this or that, Allah says they were believers and a wrong was done to them. He's not dissecting and saying they were this, they were that. He's just saying you people were Allah saying. Okay. All right. So it clearly says, and the witness, let's see. woe to make by the promise and judgment, the one that is subject to witness, woe to make the pit of fire by the fuel. Behold, they sat over a fire and witnessed that they were doing against the believers. And the Arab dispute be meaning. So the Quran refers to some Christians as believers. There's another Quran is none that are brothers close to you. The Christians, the Jews, the Sabians, the Deans, and some other people too that we don't know much about. So the point is that there were good people that lived in this time, and they were being persecuted, they were being abused, and they were being killed. What was the crime for which they were killed? According to the Quran 85 and 8, it says they ill-treated them for no other reason that they believed in Allah. That's it. They believed in Allah, mighty and praiseworthy. So I would want to say this is probably maybe the first attempt, maybe theism to establish itself, and even in that attempt, it was snuffed out. But we don't. We just know Allah. Believers don't know the nature of their belief. Why is it important to know that Arabia had believers before Islam? Anybody? Why is it important to know that Arabia had believers before Islam?
Savage, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody wasn't savage. There were some good people, but unfortunately, people were being abused, so they needed protection from Allah. They needed protection from Allah. These believers were among the descendants of previous Christians. So these are old Christians. I would think these are probably maybe the original Christians. Like these are probably those ones where it said, and some of Jesus' disciples went off into the desert. These may be those descendants. We would have to do research. I don't want to, but possibly, okay? This is a lot. This is the ancient Christian group. All right. But we also know that, look, the closest Christian nation is where Ethiopia. It's just across the street. So if they're burning Christians here, what do you think Christians here are going to do?
But
They're gonna
want to
Yeah, they're going to protect people across the street. You know they're beating up Muslims across the street. You're going to walk over there. So this king, this Ethiopian king, heard about the ethnic genocide of Christians and sent another king, or sent an army to do justice. All right, we'll talk about it in a second. It's going to lead us up to the prophet. This is important. All the go ahead, Justice. So it's important to know that Arabia had believers, but we know everybody in Arabia wasn't evil. There was kind of like this conflict, but evil was the overwhelming trend. Violence was the trend. There was no this is now seeing why it was so important for Islam to come up on the world stage. Very important. Okay, so from Netherlands to Yemen, the massacre helped trigger Palestinian involvement in Yemen. So, from Ethiopia, an army sent into the Arabian Peninsula in order to assert influence and to take care of the Christians that lived in Arabia. This army was led by a man named Abraha. You may sound familiar. Abraha had this interesting idea. Once he got over here from Ethiopia to Arabia, he said, well, we're going to turn these lands Christian. And we're going to build a giant church. We're going to build a giant church. And this giant church is going to take all the pilgrims that were going to the Kaaba over here, the Kaaba, are now going to come over here.
Right.
But guess what? He built a church and nobody came. So the Ethiopians heard the massacre of Christians, and they sent their forces into Arabia, and just to add, just to say, okay, it's kind of like a little bit of a takeover. They come to protect the people, but they say, hey, well, we're going to stay. You built a big giant church, but nobody comes. And so, when he inquired and doing research, why is no one coming to our church? He discovers that he's not coming to the church because they're still going to the original Kaaba, in spite of the fact it's a big, beautiful, gigantic church. But nobody comes. Nobody comes. So what does he do?
You take over the Kaaba.
Oh, somebody heard this history before. He raises an army.
Say that again?
So he raises an army of thousands of soldiers, led by a group of elephants. He raises an army of thousands of soldiers, led by a group of elephants, and marches them through the desert all the way up to the Kaaba. Okay. So the Meccan hear this, of course, they're land, you got some elephants walking around, but that was the whole point. They just coming with elephants. The elephant is taller than the Kaaba. Poor Kaaba, you got these elephants around the Kaaba. So the idea that this was happening freaked everybody out. And this occurred in what is known as the year of the elephant. And what year was the prophet born? What is the name of the year that the prophet was born? The year of the elephant.
Yeah,
which is year 572 or 3.
Yeah.
Not sure which one. I'm kind of like, is it 570 or 572? I don't know.
632.
623. That is 23. Yeah. It's either 571 or 572. And we can do it. But okay. So it's the year of the elephant. The prophet is not yet born. The Christian king Abraham is marching up the Kaaba, and according to, so let's read, and something miraculous happens.
Yeah.
Let's read about the miraculous event. Surah Al-Fil. Surah Al-Fil. So far we read Rome, Surah Rome, Roman. Now we read 5 burning Christians in the ditch. Now leading us up to Al-Fil, which is the elephant. And my first name was the first game book of like the teachings, and it has all these short stories. And one of the short stories was Al-Fil. And I read Al-Fil, says the elephant. What the heck does the elephant have to do with Islam? Come to find out, this is a very important surah because it speaks of an event that saved the coming of the prophet, and it demonstrated the majesty of Allah and his power to protect his house without the help of anybody. So let's read the surah first, and then I'll break it down a little bit. Someone read me, and well, let's do the Arabic quick. It's very short, so we'll do the Arabic. Does anybody know Al-Fil? Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل؟ ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل فجعلهم كعصف مأكول. صدق الله العظيم. Someone read it.
Bismillah. Sees thou how thou dealt with the people of the did he not keep their treacherous land more straight, and he sent against flights of birds, striking them with stones of they clean. Then they make them like empty field of stumps and straw, of which the corn had been heaped up.
Ooh. All right. Let's get to it. So, it's an era where darkness is upon the continent of Arabia. Tribes fighting, world powers oppressing in on the land. Genocide is happening, murder is happening. I mean, ethnic cleansing, the burning of people in the ditch. Christianity and Judaism are kind of battling a little bit. And in comes a new Christian power who has in their mind, they're going to fix this situation. We're going to make this whole place Christian and it's going to be all great. So he comes into the land and discovers that he is not able to attract people to his church.
Yeah.
They just aren't trying to hear it. They are that the Kaaba has an ancient historical connection to the people, to the tribe of Abraham, Isaac. This is their tribal connection. So you can't just replace some kind of a universal religion brought to this land. So he marches towards Mecca. And according to Hadith, I'm going to give you that version of it, the more story format. The story format goes like this. As they're marching to Mecca, suddenly Allah sends an angel Jibreel. Angel Jibreel comes and whispers some word into the ear of the lead elephant, and in sight of Mecca, the elephant sits down. They beat it, they kick it, they stab it, they yell at it, they do everything they can, but the elephant will not get up and move. This stops the other elephants. So at this point, the argument has been stopped. Seeing that the Meccans have fled the city, so the city has been abandoned. They already out in their mind, it's over, we're going to lose. But seeing that the army has stopped, they send an ambassador to find out, well, hey, maybe they want to talk.
Yeah.
Maybe, no, Abraham didn't want to talk. He can't smash the Kaaba into the ground. He didn't believe in none of this stuff. But why? But if all Allah wanted was to remove the idols from the Kaaba, everything would be good. Why not just let Abraham do that?
Yeah, but he wants to knock his father down too. So you have statues, you can't have.
There we go. He wanted to take the Kaaba too, which connects us to Tawheed. So had he did that, he would have eradicated the line of Tawheed, the Hanifa that we're talking about, the righteous, the Sunnah of the Prophet is connected to the Kaaba. So they choose one of their great leaders to come out, which his name is Abdul Muttalib. Who's Abdul Muttalib?
That's the prophet's grandfather.
That's right, the prophet's grandfather. Now the prophet's grandfather is the leader of the Quraysh, and the Quraysh are tribe traders who now are the caretakers of the Kaaba. Banu Hashim. And it's the job of Banu Hashim to protect. Really, it's Banu Hashim's job to go fight Abraham. So the least he can do is go out there and talk to the guy. So, well, does anybody know why the Quraysh were given that honor of carrying the Kaaba?
Well, Prophet Muhammad, so the great decision of people, I believe. And so that's in his bloodline.
Yes.
Well, and I'm not.
That's
you know, I'm not sure exactly how correct. No, his grandfather was. I don't know the politics on how he got the, was able
sure.
to take care of,
Let me kick it to you. Chop it up. Just a little, just a teach. If we say, well, why were they so honored? They were honored because they had a leader named Hashim. Hashim, the great grandfather, the father of Abdul Muttalib, right? Hashim, he had sons, and Abdul Muttalib was one of them. Okay? Abdul Muttalib had a son named Abdullah, that's the father of the Prophet. Okay, so Hashim, the great grandfather of prophet had arranged with all I was telling you about these different. He was able. He was a high level politician. Probably we would call him maybe like a Barack Obama or something. Like, really good at talking, just connecting, conflicting people. So he got these people, Christian Byzantium, the Romans, and these people, the Persians, to let all of these people live tax free, as long as the Arab tribes pay them as they do their business. So as long as they break it off, they can live tax free. And this is why Hashem was given high level, because he did for the Arab tribes what no other Arab pulled off. He got these guys kind of basically let him for a while, quite a long time. Okay, but as you see, was fragile. But this is why Christ gave Hashem the respect that he had given, and why the priests were the high level characters of the capital. Okay? There's also the connection to the historical, but I'm telling you the political one. So he got the Arab tribes to be able to go about their business without being taxed by the Byzantines, mainly the Byzantines. And that gave him that high level. But as we see, it came back to harm. Abdul Muttalib talked to Abraham. So he does. So Abdul Muttalib leaves Mecca and he walks out to meet the army. And he speaks to Abraham. And Abraham says to him, he expected that he's going to come and say something like, please, what can we give you? What can we pay you? What can we do?
Bargain.
Yeah. But Abdul Muttalib surprised. He says, when he said, what can I do for you, sir? He says something to the effect of, can I please have back my camels that your army has taken? And then he asked him, he said, well, hey, I thought you were going to ask me to leave or to not cross the Kaaba. He said, no. He said, I am the owner of the camels and the owner of the house will protect you. And so, according to this, we don't really know why. We know what the Quran says. And the Quran says, did he not make a treacherous plan? Did he not make their treacherous plan go astray? And he said against them flights of birds, striking them with stones of baked clay. Then he made them like an empty field of stalks and straw, which has been eaten up. So the Quran says that Allah sent the birds, destroying the entire army of Abraham. So, come on, my brother.
It's what you just said, what he said to Abraham, that those not camels, but the owner of the house will protect the That's, I mean, reading between the lines. That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's law, right?
Yeah, he didn't have the power to stop Abraham.
Right.
Yeah, it was over with. If Allah didn't protect that camel, it wasn't being protected. That's the second time it happened. When the prophet came, they ran out the city too again. Because it was normal that an invading army would come in and rape the women, kill the men, rape the women, and take the children into slavery, stuff like that. So that's what they expected. So we don't really know. What we do know is the elephant refused. The elephant never made it to Mecca. The army was said to have been decimated and it fell apart. The army just dissolved at this point in time. The mystery of the Quran says that Allah sent flight of birds. I've heard different scholars interpret it differently. It's a mystery. I mean, as one of the miracles. So this brings us to the first great miracle that surrounded the coming of the Prophet Muhammad, which was the event of the year of the elephant, where the army crushed Mecca, but was turned around by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Indeed, the Arabs do not say they don't take any credit. There's no Arab reference that says they fought him. Okay? All right. Questions, thoughts about where we're at so far? Makes sense? We got a good view of now. Okay, so the prophet was going to a really, really chaotic environment. So now let's dig deeper.
I will say one thing.
Come on, brother.
Very appreciative of you making it clear. When I read the Quran, the elephant, to the
Yes.
significance of it.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I've been waiting for the opportunity to tell the story. It's so important. Like, okay, oh, now I get it. I just didn't make the connection until you really got to go back to pre-history.
Yeah.
We always talk about the life of the prophet, but we rarely go back and talk about right before his life and pre-history. And so that's why.
It's like the brother said, like when you're looking for the surah 5 is too short. So you have to like give class.
Yeah.
What you say? Class come to classes to understand
Right.
just this little area.
Okay. And now I'm not gonna embarrass myself by giving you the metaphor interpretation of this. I've heard the brothers break it down really well. I would love to do some research, get some opinions. I'm gonna stop right there and just take it for what it is. It was a mystical event that we don't really understand. Allah explains it this way, but the simple outcome is that the army stopped and was turned around and Mecca was saved by Allah.
Okay.
Simple.
That's bird.
Well, yeah, I'm saying it with the word. But this is the thing. The word for airplane is Ta'id as well. Ta'id is everything in the sky.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's birds like this or was it some kind of bird like a missile. I don't know. You see? When I asked Ta'id about it, it just means something flying, and that's kind of where.
What makes me think about rain and you know, I mean, the rain, you know, okay, it's rain.
There's
But I'm thinking the birds with stones, how high they fly, and when they drop, it's gonna be like rain.
I think the essence of this is that it was some type of a miraculous event that is not easily explained to anybody.
Right.
Yeah, it's not really explained to anybody. I mean, we're lucky we even get this because if we didn't even get this, we wouldn't know anything about the story.
Right.
We wouldn't know, oh, Arabia full of Christians. Like that many Christians. They had whole armies of Christians. Oh, wait. They had whole armies of Christians. But they didn't respect the lineage of the Sunnah connected to Abraham. They didn't respect that. They didn't want to eradicate.
Right.
Allah preserved.
Right.
Allah preserved his Kaaba. Allah preserved his people, which he would bring about now in Islam, would stabilize the world. Took over all these lands, and I'm showing you, I said Persian, Roman. Soon Islam owned all of that.
Yeah.
That would be the end result. And now you have law and order, you have sewage and cleanliness, you have doctors, you have libraries, you have civilization that developed like this now. Where before it was pure chaos. Okay, let's keep going. So these, all right. So Yemen, why Mecca mattered? Okay, Mecca mattered a lot for several different reasons. The main reason they had the largest market in Arabia, and so all of the caravans would travel through Mecca. So if you really wanted to kind of direct the caravan on the way, you would have to remove them. Basically, like New Yorkers, like if you wanted to remove, you have to remove the trade center. So Mecca was the center of trade, which also made it the center of culture, center of prestige for the Quraysh, were the highest Arabs, they were the caretakers of the Kaaba. Also, it had a protected status, so you could fight certain areas around the Kaaba. And in fact, what Abraham was doing was a desecration to this very holy place, although it was desecrated by the idolaters. Okay. So Abraham's approach was more of an eradication of the people, while Prophet Muhammad's approach was a redeeming of the people, a cleansing of the people, and not eradicating them, but bringing them out this time, bringing them to Tawheed, the one that's below. Okay, so we talked about the army of. We talked about one of the camels in the house and the Lord protected when asked. So this year, the year of the elephant was the year of the prophet's birth. Allah says, have you not seen how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant? No Arabian army defeated Abraham, we know that. No empire rescued Mecca. Nobody came to the help of Mecca. And Allah indeed did protect his own house. But what was the spiritual condition of the Meccans at this time? Let's see. We got a few more minutes. I'm going to spend probably 10 more minutes. We're talking about this and we're about to. But I want to mention a couple of items that are important to know. We can understand that the Arabs knew about Allah, but they saw Allah as high God above other gods, as rather than just God.
Right. Right.
This is why the Shahada is so important.
Yes.
I shahada like a witness, there is no God but Allah, because they believe in all these other deities,
Right.
and not only that, they ascribed genealogy to the deities, and they were related to some of them. And not only that, they had this superstitious perception, so nobody would go and tear down the temples or bother the temples until the prophet came, and then he sent Khalid and Walid to go and tear down these places because people were afraid of them. They were inhabited by jinn. They would say that certain places were inhabited by jinn, and if you went there and you tried to tear it down, the jinn would come and get you. So he would send the Sayyidullah, sort of Khalid ibn Abi Talib. They would send him, and Khalid, he would send Omar, and they weren't afraid of none of them. No jinn. And there's stories about them breaking places, like some kind of a old lady or a creature would come out and they would just strike it down and keep on about their business. So the point is that where other people were afraid because they had the superstitious beliefs, the Muslims were not. This is us today. This is us today. We kick aside a lot of those things are what prevents you from using your intellect, because you're afraid of superstitions and you're not thinking with your intellect anymore. You're just thinking with your feelings and your emotions. So Muslims, we keep that stuff aside. Even I catch myself, brother. I'll be doing something and I see like a certain bird come off or eagle. Yeah, I was with you. And then I remember that the Prophet said, there's no bird. Meaning, there's no good in that bird for you.
Right.
The power is Allah.
Yeah.
You don't have to don't worry about the bird. The bird is just a bird. The power that you're wanting for and you're thinking of is with Allah. Let there's no bird. Meaning, there's no benefit, whether it's this way or that way. You see it and you don't see it.
Yeah.
The benefit is with you and Allah.
And they thought with their language, they feel closer to God, it's like innocent.
Let's drill down, brothers. Thank you for bringing that. Let's go to 39 and that's exact discussion for and analysis of that discussion. Surah 39 and 3.
Okay. We'll do this right theory. Is it not to Allah that's sincere devotion to, but those who take or protect others Allah say, we all serve in order that they may bring us nearer to Allah. Truly, Allah will between them where you differ, but Allah has not such as are false and ungrateful.
You can read that one too.
And Allah wished to take himself the Son, he could have chosen people without those who does create. But glory to him. He is above, he is Allah, the one irresistible.
MashaAllah. All right. This speaks directly to, is it not to Allah that sincere devotion is due, but those who take for protectors.
Yeah.
وَالَّذِينَ تَخَاذُوا مِن دُونِهِ أَوْلِيَاءَ, like wali.
Yeah.
The plural is awliya. Those take as their protectors.
Yeah.
Other than Allah. That's the cross in the neck.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the horseshoe above all.
So
That's the dollar. If you walk in the store, they got the dollar, the first dollar on the wall.
Yeah.
Okay,
They bring you good.
it's insignificant, but then it goes back. It goes to okay, here's my luck. Oh, that's my lucky charm, my lucky rabbit's foot. What's going on here? What are we doing? How many lucky things you got? Where does the luck come from? Where does the luck come from? And what's the reversal of that? Okay, well, what about the unlucky stuff? So now we get into this weird, superstitious believing all these things have power. And every time we believe something has power other than Allah, we're committing an act of shirk. We're putting a divider between us and Allah. We can't understand Him. We don't, that's why we can't understand Allah. We see Him in this really small, minuscule, limited way of superstition. Give you an example. Since I've been Muslim, I've been getting rid of crosses and Bibles and images. I ain't got my life yet. My life is number one better.
Right.
I mean, like, you got better. Right. Me, but had I been in a Christian, I would have been away from bro, you about to get struck by lightning. I would have told you about to get struck by lightning.
I was tested though. You got up and they're all Christian. So one said, man, it's like they don't believe God walk the water. I didn't take more. So you got next up, I said, brother, God walk the water. He allows someone to walk the water. And so don't get in. But so it was that was a test for me. I don't know what you're gonna say and let people. You know, well, Jesus right. You know, if I'm saying something good, man. But it's always this. I let them say whatever you want. But it's sometimes at some point it's like snap back.
Yes.
And so I need challenge me, I say, oh, God allows someone to walk on the water. Not that you could do it, but I mean, God walk.
Thank you. There we go. All right, 31, 35. Then we can get into walking in the garden and a bunch of stuff. 31, 35. What is it called? Human attribute to Allah. There's a word it's called anthropomorphism, which is a long word. I've actually brought it up before here.
What's that? You want
31, 35. But if it's
30.
30, maybe hold on. Let's see what's down the pain. How about 39, 38?
Cool.
Thirty.
39, 38.
I think you got before this.
Hold on. What's going on? Hold on.
I got soda.
Oh, I'm 39. They make it, brother. Also 39, 3. You want that 39? Yes, definitely.
Well,
Okay, yes. 39, 37, and 39, 3.
Then
Yeah, 37 and 38. Back, both of them.
instead of God God to lead us straight, it's not a law that comes in power, able to enforce his will, nor the retribution. If indeed thou him what is created and they will be sure to stay alone. Say he the thing that he focus out on can the law will do they will move his or it will grace thing can they back grace
Go ahead.
In those women, in his trust.
Okay. So, if indeed you ask them, who is it that created the earth, they will say, Allah.
Yes.
وليس أحدهم ما خلق السماوات والأرض ويقولون الله. Yes, simple. So this is referred to the people that the prophet was sent to deal with, and to the people before them. He's saying, look, they believe in Allah,
Yes.
but they believe in Him wrong.
Right. Right.
Misbelief. There's the word. You see the word disbelief.
Yeah.
Disbelief.
Yeah.
This is misbelief.
Yeah.
Misbelief means you believe wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong idea. Allah.
You made a mistake in your thoughts.
You made an error somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
See then the things that you invoke besides Allah, can they, if Allah will some penalty for me, remove the penalty? In other words,
Right.
if you got cancer or it's praying to that idol, remove your cancer. If you're sick or poor or you want your condition to be changed, well, praying to that idol fix that? Saying no, it's not going to fix that. And it says, and such is the law that guide there will be none to lead astray. So it reminds us that guidance only comes from Allah.
Yeah.
And so it's directing the people to acknowledge that they need the right understanding. Even though you believe something of the law, you got misbeliefs that are messing you up. And proof of that is looking at your society. So we look at the Meccan society and we saw that they were in a horrible condition, that they were oppressing people, women were treated as property, women were owned, they had no rights, very few rights. Orphans were mistreated and ignored. They were left just kind of abandoned in the streets. Had slaves, and they would mistreat the slaves. Islam didn't outlaw slavery, but it introduced laws and rules governing slaves, and I have a as your slave. And so this is why the Arabs now try to teach people Islam. When they went into other countries, they didn't try to study the history. They weren't, meaning Islam was spread by the sword is false, because it was the opposite. They did not want people to come into Islam, because once you became Muslim, now I gotta give you the rights of the Muslim. And as long as you're not Muslim, I can treat you so far. That's not right. I'm not saying it should be like that, but I'm saying that was kind of the attitude at that time. Oh, you're not Muslim? Whatever. Hey, yeah, but still, I don't really think much. I don't treat you very well. But to the Muslim, you got rights, treat you with respect, and own you, or beat you, or torture you, anything like that.
They have to eat what you eat.
I got it. Yes. Okay, so the weak were abused, the weak were vulnerable, and women were seen as a curse. If a family had birthed a female baby, the baby was a curse, and the Quran mentions that. Do you not see the man that visits darkness when he sees the female baby?
Yeah. Go big.
Because they felt that it was a bad omen.
Yeah.
My firstborn son,
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
wow.
No.
Imagine how many babies would stand up on the day of Yom Kippur, Allah raised people up. How many babies will stand up out of that temple?
So they buried them alive.
It was one story.
It was
the dad big hole, and he was fun to her, but it did probably together.
there's a story where
Great.
it's really sad. Right?
Oh.
Let's keep going, brother. It'll make me cry. So there you go. So this is the depth of darkness that it's really bad. Like we can get into it, and y'all in here. I don't want to turn to a sad story because most of us we know that exists, and I think it defines the depth of moral, ethic, cultural darkness people were in. They were around the Kaaba naked. They were around the Kaaba naked, doing sexual acts with the Kaaba in public. Women didn't cover that didn't exist like that. Women were uncovered, and so the covering became something. But the nakedness of the Kaaba was a normal thing. Imagine all the people running around naked at the Kaaba. That was a thing. Right. Okay, so this world that the prophet was born in, the time of and year of the elephant, which would be 570, 571. Allah blessed the world and brought about mercy to all men in the form of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was born through his mother Amina, his father Abdullah. Now, Abdul Muttalib, is that right? So, Amina is first is Imam. Yeah, that's Imam. Yeah. It means trusted. Yeah, he's trusted. Okay, so we now know that the Quraysh were the rulers of Mecca because they were able to broker peace with some of the world powers, and that's what gave them that from Hashim. It was an inherited position. And in the time, and secondarily, during the event with the elephant, Abdul Muttalib, he didn't save him, but he represented him as their leader at that time. So kind of let you know, okay, so the prophet was born to the leaders of the tribe. Abdul Muttalib had a son named Abdullah, who he paired with a young woman named Amina. But before the prophet was born, Abdullah went on a journey to death, Medina, became ill, and he died on the journey. They buried him there. And now the prophet is in the womb of his mother, and he already doesn't have a father. And when his mother birthed him, I'll let Brother Clark, Imam, we talk about that next week. We've come to the end of our section for today. Let's just bring it up to the verse, and we're going to take it from there, brothers and sisters. So I thank you for your attention. I hope I was able to fill you in about what the world looked like in Arabia that the prophet was born into. He wasn't born into nothing pretty, Russ. You could see why he was unsettled and not feeling good about his society he grew up in. Alcohol was rampant. I'm sure they had other things that they used as well, but they didn't have pure water. And so imagine, this is further the ministry of the prophet. When he told them to stop drinking, they would drink alcohol because it purified and killed the bacteria in the water. So he's not telling them to stop drinking alcohol. The risk of getting sick is even better than the risk of the alcohol addiction that's going to be caused. That's just how they kind of had it back. Well, the well of Zamzam was still just kind of like water. I don't know what the status of drinking. I know people do drink it these days. Question. I haven't answered that. So the well of Zamzam had been lost in ancient history, and Abdul Muttalib came back and he found the well of Zamzam. Abdul Muttalib found it a little bit about doing that. I'll try to brush up how he find it, but yeah, it was lost. It was found before the time of the prophet. But yeah, it didn't exist. Yeah, it still didn't exist. But it had been lost for many years. It was plugged up.
Because what's the name?
The mother of Israel.
She kind of a little.
But that was 1,000 for the prophet. Right?
Well, true. But I mean, it was her more. She allowed people.
That's right.
Use it. But they recognize, with this case, what you allow to take. It's one of the well, because different third said issue because of people in the water. This is another No,
Here's one right here. It says, the encounter with Abraham, the king, was not the first time in Abdul Muttalib's life he had come close to making a spiritual connection with Allah. So, this psalm says that situation put Abdul Muttalib almost basically admitted that almost, not quite.
Yeah.
He stepped to the door.
Yeah.
He also desired to rediscover his inner family. So to let you know, during the time of Abdul Muttalib, it wasn't the legendary wealth that he heard existed since the time of Abraham, later lost. The only knowledge he had that the Jerumites, one of the tribes that had come from Yemen, had become custodians of the Kaaba before the Quraysh. But over time, they did acts such as exploiting pilgrims, cheating, using the gifts of the house of Allah for personal benefits. Eventually, they were forced out of their position, and another tribe took over. One night, however, Abdul Muttalib had a dream in which a voice told him to go dig out a spot near the Kaaba and open up the Zamzam well. He and his sons were delighted. They rediscovered the Zamzam well, from which fresh water is flowing until this day. Why, just in case.
Well,
All right, great time today. Have any questions, comments, concerns before we end up?
Yeah, I got it. When you describing the Christians back when the fight going on, they built a church.
So the Jews were killing Christians.
Yeah.
And some other Christians came to stop the Jews from killing, but then those Christians tried to take over the whole peninsula.
Yeah, right. I couldn't bring where with the first Christians, but was not. They didn't believe the Trinity and all this stuff.
So those are called Unitarian Christians. And Unitarian Christians existed in Ethiopia. And so that Christian talking to a brother existed in this area. These are Unitarian Christians all around in Egypt.
Yeah.
But the Trinitarian Christians, they come from up
Oh.
yeah, they come from up here in like Turkey and Rome.
Constantine.
And then you got these fire whispers over here. They got a Trinity too, the Persians. So the Persians also had a bit of a Trinity. So, like they were fire whispers. That's the Magian, the Zoroastrians, that's these people.
Yeah.
But they were not totally immoral people. Allah refers to them kind of like misguided. And that it was the job of the prophet to guide them right and not to consider all of them bad or evil.
Right. Okay.
You know
Allah just said if they weren't all bad, they were all
Right.
Now I don't want to sound prejudiced against a group, but everything that I took through my child, it's always stories where Allah is always the rescue of the Jews. But they always, he comes to rescue, they mess up. It's been, I mean,
look at today.
yeah,
Look at
that's
today.
what I'm on.
Yeah.
So you look at today, and then back to the big
Let me close with you, our brother.
Sure.
We can chat and we can mix a lot of stuff. Inshallah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. By the token of time and the ages, indeed, man is Allah accepts such as has faith and does righteous deeds and joins together in the mutual teachings of truth and of patience and of constancy. Ya Allah, strengthen us, guide us, and forgive us of our sins, open our hearts to your religion. Help us to have the right understanding of the religion. Forgive us for all of our wrongdoing and our misunderstanding. We praise and glorify you about you. Thank you for attending, brother. A delightful class, always a pleasure.